In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. From Adam, the first man, humanity began its journey, but the path was filled with challenges. From Seth to Noah, each generation carried the promise of life, hope, and the burden of the fall. Genesis 5 is not just a list of names. It's a testament to faithfulness through the centuries. These men walked with God, building the foundation for the world to come, a world destined for both judgment and renewal. From the first man to a world full of life, Adam lived for 930 years, blessed by God's hand. Adam, created in the image of God, lived for 930 years, passing down his divine heritage to his descendants. He is the father of all humanity, and his legacy begins the chain that will shape the course of history. In the wake of loss, Seth's 912 years brought hope and continued the promise. Seth, born when Adam was 130 years old, lived for 912 years. His birth came after tragedy, bringing renewed hope to a broken world, and continuing the divine promise through Adam's line. For 905 years, Enoch lived as the generation that rekindled humanity's prayer to the Creator. Enoch, Seth's son, lived for 905 years. During his lifetime, people began to call upon the name of the Lord, marking a spiritual revival in mankind's relationship with God. A lifetime of wisdom, Kenan's 910 years, guided humanity through a time of great expansion. Kenan, the son of Enoch, lived for 910 years. His life spanned generations of growth, wisdom, and human experience. As the descendants of Adam multiplied, for 895 years, Mahalalel reminded the world that praise belongs to God. Mahalalel, the son of Kenan, lived for 895 years. Known for his devotion, he led the people in worship, reminding them of the importance of praising God in every generation. For 962 years, Jared watched over his lineage as the world began to change. Jared, the son of Mahalalel, lived for an astonishing 962 years. His life marked a period of rapid change as humanity grew, and he faithfully watched over his family and descendants. Enoch's 365 years of righteousness brought him directly into God's presence without seeing death. Enoch, the son of Jared, was unlike any other. He lived for only 365 years, but he walked with God so faithfully that he was taken to heaven without experiencing death. Methuselah lived for 969 years, a lifetime of endurance and a reminder of God's patience with the world. Methuselah, son of Enoch, lived for 969 years, making him the longest living human in the Bible. His life spanned almost a millennium, a symbol of God's patience before the coming flood. For 777 years, Lamech lived with a prophecy. His son Noah would bring comfort to a weary world. Lamech, Methuselah's son, lived for 777 years. He named his son Noah, believing that Noah would bring comfort and hope in a world filled with toil and hardship. Noah, destined for greatness, would live for 950 years, bringing rest and renewal to the earth. Noah, born when Lamech was 182 years old, would go on to live for 950 years. He was destined to lead humanity through one of its greatest challenges, the flood, and his birth carried the promise of rest. From Adam, the world began to fill with life, as his 930-year legacy continued through his children. Adam's descendants grew in number, spreading across the earth. Each generation carried the weight of God's promise, with Adam living to see 930 years of life and expansion. For centuries, these men of faith carried God's promise, living long lives filled with purpose. The early patriarchs lived extraordinary lives, often spanning over 900 years. These lifespans were marked by faith, endurance, and a deep relationship with God. As the world continued to grow, through every generation, whether 365 or 969 years, God's watchful hand never faltered. God faithfully watched over each generation, from Adam to Noah. Their lives, some stretching nearly a millennium, were part of his unfolding plan to guide humanity back to him. From Adam to Noah, each lived for centuries, leading up to the man who would save humanity through the flood. The lineage from Adam to Noah spanned generations of faithful lives, with Noah ultimately living for 950 years. Each link in this chain played a role in God's plan for the salvation of the world. With Noah's 950 years, the stage is set for a new beginning. The flood draws near, but hope remains. As Noah's story begins to unfold, his 950-year lifespan becomes the backdrop for a new chapter in humanity's history. The world is on the brink of change, and Noah's role will be crucial. Through centuries of life, these patriarchs witnessed the world change, but their faith remained steadfast. They lived, they prayed, and they passed on the promise. From Adam to Noah, God was preparing humanity for a new chapter. Their lives, stretching hundreds of years, are a reminder that no matter the time, God's plan is always in motion. The story of Genesis 5 reminds us that life is a journey passed from one generation to the next. Though these men lived long lives, their years were not in vain. Each generation had a role to play in God's unfolding plan. Patience, faith, and endurance are key. Just as they trusted in God's promise, so must we. No matter the challenges we face, God's purpose will always come to pass. As we move toward the story of Noah and the flood, we learn that renewal and hope often come after the storm. Which character's journey in Genesis 5 resonates most with you, and why? How can their faith in God's plan inspire your walk today? Do you believe God's plan for each generation is still unfolding in our world today? Yes, absolutely. No, I'm not sure.